Oh man, I have not recorded with this thing in like 2, 3 weeks now. I don't know how long it's been. Alright, so, high school track. Everyone's favorite sport, right? You either love it or you hate it. Well, thankfully for me, I've had the absolute utmost pleasure of being on both sides of the spectrum. So to set the stage, this was around early 2017. I was a junior in high school, my testosterone levels were all over the place, penis was still growing, and I was just really enjoying life. And the main reason for that was because I had made probably the greatest decision of my life up to that point to go back to my regular high school from this terrible vocational school that I was only at for like one semester? Now, when I went back to my original high school, I realized that, soccer was right around the corner. By right around the corner, I mean like 6 months away. So I knew I needed to get into shape for it. Because the thing is, at the time, I was not in shape. In fact, I was quite a bit heavy. I mean, I was maybe around like 190, 185, somewhere in that ballpark. So I knew I needed to do something about it, and if you watched one of my old vlogs from 2017, you'll know that I kind of touched on my weight and like how it fluctuated throughout the years. So at the end of the day, I knew I needed to do something that would help me lose more weight while at the same time getting me into probably the best shape of my life for my last season of soccer. Now, the only problem with that was that there were only two sports that you could really partake in for the spring season. It was either baseball or track. And here's the thing, guys. I'm not a fan of baseball. Like, I don't really understand how it works. I just know that you hit a ball with a bat and hope that it goes out of the field. Something along those lines. So, I made the very wise decision to join the track team. So we'll fast forward a couple weeks after I signed up and conditioning starts. Oh, conditioning. The sweet, sweet conditioning. Oh man, it's literally hell on earth for all runners alike. Now, for the first day of conditioning, I honestly don't really remember much from it aside from like running in a sort of like L shape throughout like the former senior wing of our high school for like, I don't know how long, like 1-2 hours. It was pretty boring. And as I'm telling you guys this story, keep in mind that I was still decently heavy and was pretty much, I wasn't in shape at all. Even after playing soccer for a couple months, I was still a big fatso. So we did that for about a week, running throughout the building and whatnot, and then we decided to move outside around maybe mid-February because it actually ended up warming up pretty quickly. It got to be around like 50, 60 degrees by like early to mid-February. It was amazing. It was beautiful. And it was in that moment that we had to make pretty much a life or death decision, either sprinting or distance running or throwing, but let's be honest, I am not that strong, and if I ended up throwing, I'd probably end up hitting someone with either the shot put or that disc thing, whatever you freaking call it. But because I had a pretty decent amount of distance running experience from soccer, running upwards of like 2 to 3 miles, like 4 or 5 days a week, I decided, why not? I'll just be a distance runner. And boy, what an amazing choice I made there. So we're outside our building, and our coach, we had separate coaches for each event, keep that in mind. He decided to make us run a few laps around basically like the perimeter of the building. And mind you, our campus was pretty large for what we had. I mean, we had a pretty decent sized building. We had the football field, the practice soccer field, and then the game field. And he had us run around the practice field, around the football field, and around the building. Like maybe 2-3 times, and that had to be at least like 800 meters each. Now, of course, being the big Chungus that I was at the time, not being in any shape, I'm pretty sure I finished last each time, which doesn't surprise me and shouldn't surprise any of you. And especially considering that, like, all 5 to 8 months of my junior soccer season involved me finishing last, literally 99.9% of the time in our distance runs. Like, that's how bad I was at not even distance running in general. I was just a complete suck at it. But thankfully, I was able to get faster and faster as time went by. But obviously, none of you give a flying flip about the practice part. You just want to hear about the obnoxiousness of my team. And boy, were we something. So let's get to our first meet. Now, this meet was called the Early Bird, of all things, even though it started maybe around like 9, 10 a.m. I don't really remember. But what I do remember is only running one event in that meet through the span of like maybe 7 hours. It was the 4x8. Now, This is the icing on the cake, people. So, we start, I was maybe second or third leg in that. So, I do my run. It was pretty terrible again. My first ever track event. I'm bound to do terrible, right? So I finish. I pass it off to my friend Evan, who I haven't talked to in, geez, like over 2.5 since we graduated, really. But he does his run. So he runs his first lap, does his second lap, and as he's getting to the final turn, he stops and pulls over to the little high jump area, because we have those, you know. And he just... He literally pulls over right before the final straight stretch. Think about that. And pukes. Oh my gosh, poor guy. So naturally, we ended up getting disqualified, which was kind of a bit of a bummer. At least to the others. To me, I didn't really give a crap, even though it was literally my first and only run of that meet and of that season. But thankfully, it happened pretty early, maybe an hour or two into the meet. So after that, I pretty much had however many hours to do whatever the hell I wanted to do. Here's another obnoxious story that I have from track. So this was about maybe a month or two into our season, and we're at a much smaller meet, thankfully. And I'm pretty sure I ran quite a bit that meet too, think about that. But we were in the middle of the meet, and out of nowhere, my friends Logan and Kirsten decided to be all cute and literally sing their hearts out on the bleachers. Literally, I don't even remember what they were singing, but they were singing so loudly that they literally caused the entire meet to stop. Come to a grinding freaking halt. And everyone's literally eyeballing them. And if you knew them, you could tell that it was them. That's the funny thing. So yeah, they literally caused an entire meet to stop, and literally everyone is looking at them with the most disgusted look of what the hell are they doing fashion, you know? Now, here's the thing. When it comes to distance running, I would happily say that the 1600 is more my forte. And throughout the season, I got faster and faster and faster, thankfully. And I believe my PR at the time was maybe around 550, which I know to most, at least by men's standards, that's absolute dog shit. But for me, at least, that was pretty impressive. I mean, I'm sure by now I could probably hit maybe a 440, 450 if I tried. But there was one meet in particular, which surprisingly ended up being one of my favorite meets, and I'll tell you why in a minute, where I decided to run the 3200, the 2 mile, because our star runner at the time decided he didn't want to do it. But let's not get distracted from the fact that that meet ended up getting shut down a few hours in due to inclement weather. From what I remember, it started raining for a bit, stopped, then it started raining again, followed by a storm. So after that, we ended up coming to a halt for a couple hours. We ended up sitting in our bus, and think about that. Our obnoxious track team on a bus. It's going to be fun. And from what I remember, we ended up trying to get as many Snapchats from as many other school runners as we could. I know some of them got maybe 20 of them, whereas I, being the loser that I was and still am, mind you, got maybe 2 or 3. And I don't even think I have them on Snapchat anymore. It's so sad. Oh, and another time, one of my coaches got kicked out for absolutely no freaking reason, which caused my teammate Cody to almost go full Super Saiyan and beat the absolute crap out of the ref. If you saw his face, you knew what he was going to do. It was pretty freaking scary. And I'm not saying that to try and pass off Cody as a bad person, because he's really not. Even though I haven't talked to him in a couple years, he's one of the coolest guys that I know. Oh my gosh, another thing that we, and by we I mean myself and 2 others like to do, was tick one of our coaches off, my coach off in particular, by literally calling him Dad. Nothing else. Not coach, not mister, just Dad. Nothing follows. And in fact, it actually got to the point where we called him Dad so much that he decided that if we called him Dad again, we would have to face a 3200 as punishment. Boy, were we freaking weird. But that wasn't the only thing that ticked our coaches off. Now, interestingly enough, my high school was one of the only schools in our county that had pole vault. And because we were all young, dumb, and broke, one of our star Well, he was our only pole vaulter, but one of our star sprinters at least decided to be an idiot and literally throw the pole like a javelin. And I'm pretty sure it was one of our new poles too. So naturally our coaches got very upset at him and decided to give him a 3200 as punishment. Idiot. Now, I think I can pretty much speak for everyone when I say that track meets are pretty much more social events than anything. And my team in particular has pretty much proven that. For example, one of our meets, which ended up being my favorite meet out of my entire track career. So we were sitting on like these very high bleachers, right? And there was a school below us for whatever reason, I don't know. So we decided to be idiots and like drop like goldfish through like the little slits in the bleachers. And it got to be so stupid that we were literally dropping dollar bills through them. Like, oh man. Some of us are making some pretty bad financial decisions that day. So all in all, junior year of track ended up being an amazing season, if I do say so myself. Even though I started off pretty bad, I ended up ending on a pretty good note. And I ended up losing like maybe 35 pounds throughout that process, which was awesome. So I got to go to Walt Disney World weighing a crisp 150 pounds. And I was also able to get into easily the best shape of my life for soccer season, which came up shortly after. And I actually ended up becoming one of, if not the fastest on the team. At least distance running wise I was. But now we get to move on to senior year. Oh, senior year. Probably the worst year of my life. Like, I know so many people get so excited about senior year. Guys, it is not that exciting. It is not that special. But the thing that really sucked about senior year of track was that no one on the team really liked me, which, now that I think about it, didn't really surprise me. I mean, heck, I had a terrible love life. I got screwed over by multiple girls, mind you, like no shade thrown, only truth. I gained that 30 pounds back, and I honestly didn't really have that many friends, if I had any at all. Now, to be honest, I do try to forget my senior year of track season as much as I can because it was honestly the worst time in my entire life. Like, for instance, I decided to become the star 3200 runner because our previous 3200 runner graduated. And like, here's the thing, even though I PR'd every single time I ran the 3200 that year, it's so easy to PR in the 32 if you're not going extremely fast. Like, if you're not trying to go at record speed, you have a pretty good chance of breaking it every time. But not only that, literally like 95% of the season was freaking freezing. Like, let's compare that to the year prior. So, 2017, not too bad. Starts off a bit cold, then it quickly warms up to be about 60, 70 degrees by the first meet. And then it got up to like maybe 80, 90 degrees by the end of the season. Like our first meet, the early bird, 2017, maybe around like 50, 60 degrees. Nice. Not too bad. We were able to run with confidence. A year later, same meet. Maybe around, like, I don't know, 15, 20 degrees? Think about that. And here's the thing. Because it was the biggest meet of the season, the rules and restrictions were, like, so, like, strict that you were only allowed to wear the tank top and shorts. And undergarments if you had any, and weren't going to get barked at over it. But aside from the weather, that meet was actually pretty interesting. So to start, we do, the standard 4x8. I was probably the third leg in that, if I recall. Yeah, 4x8, that entire year, I was the third leg almost every single time. So, it starts out pretty decent. We all make our runs, and then, we get to the real star of the show. Our boy Evan's back, baby. So he's going, and he gets to the final turn. And you want to know what happens next? Ding, 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 you're right. He pulls over and pukes. Yet again. Like, seriously, guys, I am not making this up. 2 years in a row, after eating a banana an hour and a half before the 4x8, he pukes right before the final straight stretch. Now, like I said, I decided to take the reins of the 3200 spot, so naturally, I ended up running the 32 at that meet. And from what I recall, there were only 3 of us in it, which is kind of good. I mean, I got a medal in it. But here's the real kicker. Back then, I was a distance runner, not a sprinter. But you know what? My coaches decided to say, well, screw that, Aiden. We're going to put you in the 400. That's right. Literally, right after the 32, I had to come off, take like maybe a 30-minute breather, and then go straight to the 400. Like, no joke. I pass the finish, I go on the ground, lay down, do whatever, try to breathe, and then my coach says, Aiden, get up, you gotta run the 400. And my mind literally went blank. I was just like, what? Like, I just finished a 2-mile run in like maybe 12 minutes, and you're wanting me to sprint a lap? Like, I know to the untrained runner, to the untrained eye at least, that doesn't sound all that bad. But trust me, guys, sprinting a lap is a lot harder than it looks. Now, another sucky thing about that season was that I was already having immense ankle problems that I still suffer from to this day due to literally getting annihilated at soccer practice a few months prior to that. For example, one of my, I would say, better meets at the time, it was much warmer, thankfully, but it was a rarity to see in 2018. So it pretty much went as follows. 4x8, rest. Open 8, rest. 1600, rest. 32, oh shoot, I just twisted my ankle while stretching. Seriously, guys, I was stretching. I think I was doing high knees, maybe. Either high knees or like hamstring stretches, something like that, where I obviously had to put pressure on my foot. And I literally rolled my ankle. And I'm pretty sure it was my right ankle too. My right ankle, I would say, is the bad ankle. Even though my left one cracks a lot of times when I walk, just normally, I would say the right one is definitely the worst of it. So fortunately, I wasn't able to run the 32. Sorry, Hayden. Hope you enjoyed running 2 miles by yourself. Now, like I said, no one on the team really liked me. No joke, I was literally getting crapped on almost the entire season. Like, it was bad. And it makes it even worse when you have coaches who witness it and don't do crap about it. But do keep this in mind. A person can only hold in so much anger, and you do not want to be near them when they let that anger out. Okay? Just putting it out there. So I pretty much tried to stay as isolated as I could and pretty much keep my mouth as shut as I could throughout that entire season because it seemed like whatever I did was wrong, even when it was right. In fact, I ended up getting so upset about the whole thing that I even contemplated quitting, but because I was able to pull through my first season of soccer, I decided, hell, it's easier than it looks, you know, I already have experience with it, I might as well keep going. And plus, I was also hoping to lose 30 pounds yet again, but unfortunately that didn't happen, and I would say that I was starting to develop a binge eating disorder at the time that would later on transition into the bulimia. Oh yeah, and because of all that, I actually ended up not going to my senior track banquet, which, now that I think about it, I do not regret at all. Sorry, coach. I'm really not sorry. You know exactly why I didn't go. So yeah, all in all, track can be a pretty interesting sport, but just make sure you read the fine print of what you're really going to get into before you sign up. Like, even if it's just to get in shape for another sport, just please make sure you read the fine print of the whole sport before you decide to sign up. But aside from that, that is pretty much it. So take it easy, everyone. Stay beautiful.